There's competitors now ramping up, and
Yeah.
as you're familiar with BYD, which is also on the West Coast, I think they're ramping up production of their electric vehicles. Warren Buffett owns 10% stake in that. Why do you laugh? BYD is trying to compete. Why do you laugh?
Have you seen their car?
Apple has been suggested by some analysts who are pretty smart that they should get into the electric vehicle business and maybe do so by buying Tesla. You and Charlie Munger, your vice chair, did this years ago with BYD, buying electric vehicle and electric battery company. Would you suggest that Apple get into, or would you support it if they bought Tesla?
Well, I would support what Tim Cook does, but I think it would be a very poor idea to get into the auto business. It's not an easy business. And incidentally, the auto business is different than some. If you're a premier with Google on search, or you're a premier, with movies on Netflix, whatever it be, there's a huge first mover and size and and network effect and all that working for you. You can win in autos one year and you lose the next. I mean, you've got a dozen big companies out there with resources. They're going to keep coming. They copy what you do. People move from one year to another. You don't worry about the fact that your whole life is on the iPhone, as opposed to, you don't want your whole life to be in one car or something. It does not give you a permanent advantage.
Elon Musk, the CEO, got into a little trouble recently. If one of your CEOs did an Elon Musk type of tweet, I'm going private. Of course, they wouldn't go private,
Yeah.
but they revealed something they shouldn't have. How would you have handled that?
Well, I think what you do, if you misspeak, and I can do it with you or somebody, if you misspeak, you correct it immediately. And if you've got a stock that's trading like crazy, you come on 3 minutes later and don't say I misspoke when I said lending secured. I meant to say I really think I can get funding, or something.
Elon Musk this week on his Tesla earnings call said the following, quote, "I think moats are lame."
I'm just wondering why that isn't a moat, because, as a long-term investor, I feel like the charging infrastructure you guys have built would take years and millions of dollars for another brand to replicate. So I'm just curious about the strategic thinking behind opening that up versus keeping it closed.
First of all, I think moats are lame. They're like nice and sort of quaint, vestigial way. But like if your only defense against like invading armies is a moat, you will not last long. What matters is the pace of innovation. That is the fundamental determinant of competitiveness. And for any given company, if the rate of innovation, let's say, competitors, maybe they come out with something new every 6 years. We're maybe every 2 to 3 years. So if our rate of innovation is, let's say, twice that of any given competitor, then it is simply, and this is true of generally of companies in any industry. Whichever company has the highest rate of innovation, unless that company is actively killed by its competitors in some way that's nefarious, or shoots itself in the foot, it will at some point exceed those competitors. Like, this was obvious that this would occur with Amazon and Walmart, because Walmart's rate of innovation was negligible, and Amazon's was very high. The outcome was obvious.
So Warren, it seems the world has changed. Business is getting more competitive, pace of innovation, technology is impacting everything. Is Elon right?
Well, to answer that one, Warren, Elon says a conventional moat is quaint, and that's true of a puddle of water. And he says that the best moat would be to have a big competitive position, and that is also right. It's ridiculous. Warren does not intend to build an actual moat. Even though they're quaint.
Yeah. There's certainly a great number of businesses. This has always been true, but it does seem like it. The pace has accelerated and so on in recent years. There's been more moats that have become susceptible to invasion than seemed to be the case earlier. But there's always been the attempt to do it. And here and there are probably places where the moat is as strong as ever. But certainly you can work it certainly should be working at improving your own moat and defending your own moat all the time. And Elon may turn things upside down in some areas. I don't think he'd want to take us on in candy, but and we've got some other businesses that wouldn't be so easy to. You can look at something like Granimals out there in the other room, and that it won't be technology that takes away the business and Granimals. It may be something else that catches the young kid's fantasy or something. But there are some pretty good moats around. Being the low-cost producer, for example, is a terribly important moat. And something like Geico, technology has really not brought down the cost that much. And I think our position as there are a couple of companies that have costs as low as ours, but among big companies, we are a low-cost producer, and that is not bad when you're selling an essential.
Have you considered overnight Elon Musk getting into the candy business as he suggested he might do on Twitter?
I didn't hear that. It sounds like wiseassery. I can't criticize anybody else for wiseassery.
Speaking of electric vehicles, what do you think about Tesla? Is that company going to become a major player?
Well, it's already created more significance than anybody would have predicted. And its founder is bold and brilliant and swings for the fences. And of course, people like that get some remarkable results, and sometimes they get some quick failure. And I haven't the faintest idea how Elon Musk is going to turn out, but I think he's got a considerable chance of success and a considerable chance of failure. He seems to like it that way.
If you look at the leading candy bars, for example, for the last 50 years, I think you'll find Snickers on top, and then you got M&Ms. You got two types, so they don't combine the peanuts with the other ones. But I think they're number 2 and 4, and Hershey's in there number 3 or something of the sort. Yeah, I can't take them on. I don't think Elon can take them on. They have moats. When you go into a drugstore, 7-Eleven or something, and you say, I would like a Snickers bar, and the owner says, oh, I've got something, the Musk bar, at 10 cents off the Snickers bar, you say, give me the Snickers. And if he doesn't give you the Snickers, you go across the street and buy the Snickers. The brands are moats, I mean, obviously. And if you try to, this product is selling, to hundreds of millions of people who want Coca-Cola. If you say, I'll sell you something for 2 cents less, or I've got some celebrity's name on it. They actually, Richard Branson tried Virgin Cola in the United States about 15 or 20 years ago. And a million others have been tried. So I don't really have the same urge to produce automobiles that he apparently has to produce candy. But I don't suggest that he take on Snickers.
You're taking me literally and stepping away from the real story here, which is kind of this war of words between you and Charlie and Elon. And I just want, do you even know Elon Musk?
I've never said anything negative about Elon. I mean, you're baiting me a little bit to do it. But,
I am.
But I've never, people like his car and everything. But somebody mentioned that now he's talking about financing. Something this morning about that. I thought I heard that earlier.
Yes, well, actually, Andrew just read some headlines where it looked like Tesla may be going back to market to pick up some additional financing. I'm not entirely sure.
Well,
all I heard was the headline.
That's what I call a counter-revelation. I mean, Charlie, because I think it was just a few days ago they said they wouldn't need financing. But he's trying something to improve a product, and I salute him for that. And the American public will decide whether it's a success, and it's not easy, you know. It's probably easier to develop a new car than to compete with Snickers. But some products have terrific moats. You know, probably Elmer's glue does. You know, WD-40. I mean, there's just certain things that you are not much inclined to be dissatisfied with and see. And I would say that, incidentally, that the iPhone, has a terrific moat. I mean, people that have an iPhone, or maybe have some other phone, but they want to continue with the product that they've got. They want the new version. It's just easier for them. They've learned how to do everything, and their life's built around it and all of that. And moats are very useful. Costco has a moat in people's mind. I mean, Amazon can raise the price of Prime, 20%, and you can't do that unless you've built something within that image of the Amazon Prime that's based on reality, that you're going to get a lot for your money and you're going to want to use it, and then you can raise prices $20. But if you're selling, some commodity product, you can't do that. You need a moat.
One of my favorite lines from you is you want to hire the guy with the IQ of 130 that thinks it's 120, and the guy with an IQ of 150 who thinks it's 170 will just kill you.
You must be thinking about Elon Musk. Of course I want the guy who understands his limitations instead of the guy who doesn't. On the other hand, I've learned something terribly important in life. I learned that from Howard Amundsen. You know what he used to say? Never underestimate the man who overestimates himself. These weird guys who overestimate themselves occasionally knock it right out of the park. And that is a very unhappy part of modern life. But I've learned to adjust to it. I have no alternative. It happens all the time. But I don't want my personal life to be a bunch of guys who are living in a state of delusion, who happen occasionally to win big. I want the prudent person.